It began with the sound of scraping claws. Beneath a cold, unforgiving moonlight, every single night, a lonely German shepherd, starved, his fur matted with dirt, his eyes hollow, would drag himself into a desolate field. On the edge of a forgotten corner of rural Pennsylvania, he'd press his trembling snout to the earth, inhale the scent of that same sacred patch of ground, and begin to dig. Always the same spot, always alone. No bark, no howl, just the quiet, desperate rhythm of his paws. And no one could understand why. But when rescuers finally uncovered what lay hidden beneath, their breaths caught in their throats. One sank to their knees, hands trembling. The youngest among them turned away, sobbing into the silence, because what they found, it shattered their hearts. Before we dive into this soul-stirring true story, pause for a moment. Tell us where you're watching from. Drop your city, state, or country in the comments. We cherish knowing how far this tale of love and loss reaches. You might even spot a neighbor, a friend from your own hometown. Now, come closer. This story, it'll carve itself into your heart. You won't ever forget it. Marge Teller was 74 when she first saw him. She lived alone in a weathered farmhouse, clinging to the edge of Green Township, Pennsylvania. Her days were soft and slow now, piecing together jigsaw puzzles, watching sparrows dance at her feeder, or wandering her back porch at dusk with a pair of scratched binoculars. But it was late October. The days were shrinking, the nights sharp with a bitter chill, and that's when she saw him. Just as the sun bled into the horizon, a shadow moved at the edge of her overgrown field. A German shepherd, gaunt, filthy, his limp a quiet cry of pain. He didn't bark, didn't glance her way. He moved with a haunting purpose, like a soul tethered to a vow, toward the farthest corner of her land. And then he began to dig, scratch after scratch, hour after aching hour. Then, like a ghost swallowed by the night, he was gone. But the next night, he returned. And the next, and the next. Marge, widowed for over a decade, had weathered storms of grief herself. But this dog's silent ritual broke something inside her. The way he clawed at the same spot, as if his heart was buried there, searching for something, or someone he couldn't let go. On the fifth night, her voice trembling, she picked up the phone. Jackson Reed was 39, a man who'd poured his soul into Ridgeview Animal Rescue, a tiny no-kill shelter 20 miles from Marge's home. When she called, he listened with a skeptic's ear. A dog digging? It didn't scream urgency. But then Marge's voice cracked. He's digging like he's lost his child, she whispered. You don't see a dog's eyes like that. Not unless they're carrying a grief too heavy to bear. Those words sank into him like a stone. They haunted him. The next night, Jackson drove out with Lacey, a gentle volunteer whose heart understood canine trauma. They packed food, a thermal drone, and a fragile hope that this was just a stray they could coax into safety. They arrived before dusk, hearts pounding in the quiet. And then he came, out of the tree line, a shadow of a dog, limping, ribs sharp against his skin, ears drooping, heavy with exhaustion. Jackson's voice broke. He looks like he's survived a war and lost everything in it. They watched, hearts in their throats, as the shepherd moved, almost reverently, to that same corner of the field, and he began to dig. The world fell silent for nearly an hour. Then Lacey's voice trembled. He's not just digging, she said. He's careful, like he's afraid to disturb what's beneath, like he's protecting it. It was nearly 10 p.m. when the shepherd stopped. He stared into the hole, then sat beside it, ears alert, tail still as stone. And then he lay down, flat against the earth, and he whimpered. A sound so raw, so broken, it tore through Jackson's chest. He stepped forward, slow, palm outstretched. Easy, boy, he murmured. We're here to help you. The shepherd didn't flinch. He just looked up, those amber eyes burning with something ancient. Not fear, not anger. A grief so deep it felt human. It took hours, but Jackson finally got close enough to scan for a microchip. Nothing. But then a glint in the dirt caught his eye. Not a bone, a tiny pink collar, crushed, caked in earth, and stitched into its frayed fabric, A single word: Lily. Back at the rescue center, Jackson couldn't close his eyes. The shepherd had refused to leave with them, a soft growl warning them not to try. So they left food, set up a thermal camera, and prayed he'd survive another night. At 3:42 a.m., the camera caught him. He returned, dug a little more, curled up in the dirt, and slept beside his hole, like a sentinel guarding a grave. The next morning, Jackson scoured police records, heart racing, searching for a lost child named Lily. Nothing. Then a thought struck him. What if the collar wasn't for a child, but a puppy? A few desperate calls later, he found it. 3 years ago, a family 15 miles away had survived a car accident on an icy road. Their German shepherd, Max, vanished into the snow after the crash. They'd been traveling with him, and a tiny 10-week-old puppy, a new companion for Max. Her name? Lily. Neither dog was ever found. Until now. Jackson called the family, the Robsons. When Emily answered, her voice shattered at the sound of Max's name. He's alive? She choked. After all this time, they agreed to come to the field. That very night, Emily, her husband Gary, and their teenage daughter arrived just before sunset, their faces tight with hope and fear. Jackson's warning echoed, no sudden moves, no loud voices. And then, like a miracle carved from dusk, Max appeared. He froze, his body a statue of scars and longing. Emily dropped to her knees, tears streaming, her palm open like an offering. Maxie, baby boy, it's me, she whispered. And the dog, this weary digging ghost, made a sound that broke the world. Half howl, half sob, a cry of a heart stitched back together. And then he ran, not away, to her. He buried his face in her chest, his body collapsing into hers, as if he'd carried the weight of 3 years and could finally let it go. But the story didn't end there. There was still the hole and Lily's collar. The Robsons told Jackson they'd never found the puppy's body after the crash. Search and rescue assumed she'd fled into the woods, lost to the freezing night. Max had been gone ever since. The next morning, a forensics team arrived. The Robsons stood back, hands clasped, as the earth gave up its secret. 6 feet down, they found her, the skeleton of a tiny puppy, curled tightly in a nest of tattered fabric, the remnants of an old blanket. No signs of violence, no trace of predators. Lily had likely died of exposure, maybe that very night. And Max had found her. For 3 years, he'd returned to that field, digging, mourning, standing guard over the sister he couldn't save, until someone came. Max went home with the Robsons that day. A vet tended his wounds, crafted a plan to help him regain strength, to ease the ache in his joints. But his soul, it began to mend the moment he felt Emily's arms again. The Robsons held a quiet service for Lily, burying her beneath a cherry blossom tree in their backyard. Max sat by the fresh earth. No digging, no whimpers, just watching, still as a prayer. And when a soft breeze stirred the blossoms, scattering pink petals across the grass, Max lifted his head, ears perked, and wagged his tail. Just once, as if whispering, she's home now. Max's story spread like wildfire. Local news shared it first, then national outlets. Soon, the world wept for the shepherd, who dug every night for 3 years, refusing to abandon his tiny friend. Strangers sent toys, treats, blankets. Veterans wrote of loyalty that mirrored their own. Seniors in nursing homes spoke of soldiers they'd known, comrades who never left a friend behind. And Emily, she poured her heart into a new mission, Lily's Field, a foundation to guide lost senior dogs back to love, back to home. Every spring, Max lies beneath that cherry blossom tree, just for a moment, not to grieve, but to remember. If this story cracked your heart open like it did ours, share it. Tell us where you're watching from, city, state, or country, and share this. Have you ever known a dog like Max? A soul so loyal it defies reason? Drop your stories below. We read every single one, because sometimes the ones who dig the deepest, they're not just dogs. They're guardians of a love that never ever dies.